So, one of the questions that I get asked the most is how much weight I've lost and how I did it. So I thought I'd make a video to explain that. Although it's not information that I necessarily volunteer about myself, I consider myself a very transparent person, and I'm always more than happy to answer any question that anybody has for me. So, as of today is May 25th, 2018, I have lost exactly 65 pounds. In order for me to talk about my weight loss journey, I think it's really important to talk about my evolution of my fitness journey. And my reason for that is to really show people that A, it is a journey. It's literally taken years. Second of all, it's to show that goals change. When I started my fitness journey versus where I am now in my life, my goals have definitely fluctuated and changed throughout the years. And the third reason is to show that setbacks happen. And one of the reasons that a journey has taken so long is because we need to mentally prepare ourselves for setbacks and things that delay our progress to reaching our plans or our goals or whatever they are. Also, one of my biggest reasons for sharing my story is because everybody's story has value, and I always preach that, but I always tend to forget that even my own story has value and is important. And there are a whole lot of people out there who could be going through the same thing that I'm going through, who could possibly relate to the message or my journey that I have been through and that I'm still currently going through. So my fitness journey started back in 2010, about 2 years after I met my fiance, Darren. We were very young. I was only 17, he was 18, so there wasn't a lot for us to do back then other than to go to the movies and go out to eat. So that's what we did. As time progressed, both him and I gained a lot of weight. And when I was about a senior in high school, I started noticing those changes in my body. I started realizing that my pants weren't fitting anymore, my tops were getting tighter, and I was going through a little bit of a crisis because as an 18-year-old, your image can be kind of important, and I was getting a little worried. So after I graduated high school, I decided, hey, okay, it's time for me to focus on trying to lose this weight and figuring out how to do so. So at the time, I decided to go to one of my local 24 gyms and to reach out to a personal trainer. And that's what I did. So throughout the following years after that, I had went through a series of personal trainers, and they all were very successful in helping me lose weight. But one problem I didn't necessarily understand was maintaining weight. I felt like I needed to keep a trainer because in order for me to keep the weight off, that was the only way that I can do it. My second trainer that I had, which was actually at a different gym, not at 24, was at Fitness SF. He was, I want to say, the best trainer that I felt like I had. He taught me a lot of information about weight loss. He was also the first person to introduce me to flexible dieting before I really knew that was what it was, and that was a thing. But he also really showed me how to take control of my weight loss and making it really fit into my lifestyle. And that was one thing I appreciated about him. He helped me understand that, hey, you can still eat the foods that you want to eat, and you can still lose weight, and you can still be happy, you can still eat enough food, and you can still get results from that. Another way that he kind of impacted my life was that he was a physique competitor. And at the time, I knew nothing about bodybuilding, I knew nothing about competing, I knew nothing about divisions. But not only did he teach me how to take control of my eating and my habits in terms of losing weight, he also taught me a lot about the sport of bodybuilding. He would tell me stories about from when he competed, he would show me pictures of it, and he also helped me fall in love with the sport of bodybuilding. He also taught me really cool things like how to grow your lats to give your body the illusion of a smaller waist. Taught me that, hey, like, let's, do whatever we need to do to give you and carve you the body that you want, and that muscles on women are sexy. So that was one thing I really appreciated about him. Throughout these years when I'm training on and off, I'm also training myself because personal training was very expensive. So when I couldn't afford to have a personal trainer, I was training myself in the gym. And that's when I really started training myself in a traditional bodybuilding way, where I would do 4 or 5 day splits where I'm focusing on one body part each day, and then I'm also incorporating cardio into that. So within all of that, I started looking up to professional figure competitors. That was the type of physique that would be the most ideal for me. And I always felt like if I ever wanted to dabble in competing in the future, that would be the division that I would go for, because that was the one that excited me the most. And I felt like that was the type of physique that I want to go for, and I still do. So in winter of 2013, I was training with Zia, and we made a lot of good progress. And then January of 2014, I actually found out I was pregnant with Skylar. So at the time, I decided I absolutely want to keep training because I know that it's very healthy to work out while you're pregnant. Unfortunately, that all had to come to a stop really early on because the doctors had found out that she wasn't gaining weight as much as she should have been. My pregnancy then became labeled as high risk. They knew that working out was just fine, and they knew that I wasn't doing anything extremely rigorous, but they decided that I should take a hold on working out and that I should stop for a little bit. My baby was not growing in an ideal manner, so I actually stopped focusing on clean eating and losing weight, and I just started to just eat whatever. After I had Skylar, I actually had her via cesarean, so that was my first time ever having surgery, which was a major setback because I couldn't bounce back into the gym as quickly as I would have liked to after I gave birth. Throughout that time, I ended up taking a year off after I had her from training, and throughout that time, I ended up gaining about 50 pounds. So a year after I had her and I was in the clear of being able to work out again, I weighed in at 254. And at that point I said, this is the last time I ever want to weigh this much. I want to start today. So I went back to my old trainer because I had ended up pausing my sessions with him when the doctor advised me to stop training. But unfortunately at the time, he ended up quitting very soon after, maybe like a few weeks. And he had said, hey, I'll still help you and guide you if you need me to. And at that point I had said, hey, you know, I kind of want to explore something else, which was hiring a coach, a pro competitor, because that was something I was always curious to do. So I had to really wait until a time that I was really ready. And I saw that as an opportunity to really explore that. I started training with a few coaches on and off. They were successful in really teaching me about bodybuilding, but I wasn't getting results as fast and as quickly as I wanted to. Then I ended up going back to an old trainer who was successful in helping me lose weight in the very beginning. And I trained with her about 3 times, and then I tore my ACL. And I was so devastated and so let down. At the time, I didn't know what it was, and it was completely undermined by the person as if, oh, it's not a big deal, it's probably just a sprain. It actually took me about a month or 2 to realize that I had torn my ACL. So that was devastating. And at that time, I had said, you know what, I'm done with personal trainers. I'm sticking strictly to coaches because they're not here with me. So I am able to gauge what I'm capable of doing and what I'm not capable of doing. So anyway, I had coaches and they slowly started helping me lose weight. And at a point, I decided to say, hey, I don't need a coach anymore. I'm just gonna do this on my own. Then fast forward to 2017, and I actually over-aggravated my ankle and gave myself tendonitis. So I'm just like, well, what do you know? I have a torn ACL, and now I have tendonitis. Like, what is going on with my body? So I went to go see a physical therapist, and he was basically like, so you're training legs 2 to 3 days a week. You gotta kind of tone that down. He was like, why don't you try cycling? It's very low impact, and you've never done it before, so maybe try it. So I was like, I don't know, because in the past, all of my cycling experiences haven't been that good. The main reason is that my butt always hurts. I took a class one time at Fitness SF and walked out 5 minutes later because it was just so uncomfortable, and it wasn't fun. So at the time, I had learned about this place called SoulCycle. I don't remember how I found out about it or where. So I had a friend that I knew I would want to go with me because she rides bikes on a regular basis, like just like trails and just outdoors. And I ended up posting on Instagram, hey, I really want to try SoulCycle, but I'm really scared. And she instantly messaged me and was like, let's go do it. So I was like, okay, let's do it. So the very first time I walked in there, I was like, what the heck is this place? I'm slightly uncomfortable, I'm out of my comfort zone, but I ended up loving it, fell in love with it, became obsessed with it, started doing it 4 to 6 times a week. And then at the time I was also developing more friends who were into fitness like I was, and I was going with them as well, which made it very, very more fun to do. And then I started seeing my weight just like melt off. At that time, I had already lost about 30 pounds. But then when I started doing that more, I actually realized that it was helping the weight melt off. And then I kind of started slowly backing away from the gym because I was just like, this is working for me. Like, why not continue doing that? And I had a lot of conflicting feelings about that in the beginning because I was just like, I consider myself a bodybuilder. This is what I love to do. Why am I like into like luxury fitness now? Why am I into studio fitness? This is not me. I was feeling very conflicted about it at the time. And then naturally I stopped going to the gym. I stopped lifting and I started doing SoulCycle just by itself. It was so successful in helping me lose weight, and it was also really pivoting in my weight loss journey because the weight started just falling off. So for the past year, that is mainly what I have been doing. I've been in and out of the gym, but I have mainly at this point been doing SoulCycle. I love it so much I ended up getting a job there. That's actually currently where I work, and I do it now, definitely not as often as I used to. Now I only do it maybe about 3 to 4 times a week because now I've learned a whole lot more about my body, and I know that I don't need to do cardio that often to still get the same results. So at this point I really focus on working smarter, not harder, and really focusing on making sure that my eating is in a calorie deficit. So that's currently where I am now, and that has what has so far gotten me down to 65 pounds. So that was a lot. But I also want to really focus on tips for people who are trying to lose major amounts of weight, because my fitness journey and my weight loss journey has happened over the course of years, and people have to understand that you didn't gain the weight overnight. So you're not going to lose it overnight. It's going to be a journey. It's going to be hard. It's going to take time. You're going to have setbacks. You need to be prepared for those setbacks and be prepared to bounce back from them and try your hardest not to get discouraged. My first tip is to try not to pay attention to what everybody's telling you to do is right or wrong. One issue that I personally had was I constantly had people in my ear telling me what was right, what was wrong about the way that I'm losing weight or the way that I'm working out. And I started to let that get into my head, and I was constantly switching and going back and forth with how I should do things, and always constantly focusing on doing everything perfectly, which when I think about it was kind of a setback. It wasn't until I started seeing those numbers of weight loss get really high that I was telling myself, hey, obviously you're doing something right. You're not starving yourself. You're eating just fine, but you're doing something right because whatever you're doing is working and you're losing the weight. You have the numbers to show it. So if you want to try any type of diet, keto, Whole30, focusing on just a simple calorie deficit, or paleo or anything, do what feels good for you, do what you want to do, but just do it. My second tip is to just work hard and stay consistent. Somebody once told me that consistency of half-assed work is more effective than on and off perfection. A lot of the times, even like I said, I'm guilty of striving to always be perfect, that I'm always telling myself I need to do what I know is the right thing to do. But then I would crash and burn, and I will rebound and either gain the weight from the prior week, or I would just burn myself out and constantly obsessing over what I know I should do versus just doing what's working, even if it's not the most ideal thing that I want to do. My third tip is whatever you decide to do is to just finish it from A to Z. I think people are always constantly obsessing over finding the next diet tip or diet, method that is the most effective to losing weight or to getting fit. And people would be surprised when they would ask me how I lost the weight, and I would just say with diet and exercise, and I think they would always want for me to tell them some secret or some, pill I'm taking. Yeah, I take Thermos on and off. Those things don't help you lose weight. At the end of the day, it's your work that you have to do to make the change. My fourth tip is to just don't give up. Like I said, Weight loss journeys, fitness journeys are journeys. They don't happen overnight. I have literally been working towards this in some aspect for years. And sometimes I look back, although I try not to all the time, and say, wow, like how exhausting is that to think about how long I've worked towards where I am. But it's also really motivating because when you stop thinking about the time and how long it's gonna take and mainly start falling in love with the process of getting where you wanna get, that's when it starts to happen a lot quicker. All right guys, so that's it for my video. Thanks for watching. Please, if you have anything, advice, whatever questions, please share them with me. I love to engage. I love to talk to people about their stories. And I love to share any advice or, encouraging words that I have for you guys. And I'll talk to you soon.